What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, we are heading towards the end of the season and our first playoff experience in quite a long time. And with this playoff experience coming up, if we can hopefully maintain the seeds that we're currently in, we could potentially be in for a fun ride, seeing some home court, really high energetic games that maybe the Chicago Bulls could walk away with some wins in this NBA playoff period. But today's video, I want to talk about what we need to see from the Chicago Bulls in order to almost guarantee our security in the playoffs and to avoid the play-in tournament. I want to see quite a few things from the Chicago Bulls team in these final stretches of games. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls' last remaining 8 games of the season, and what do you expect out of this Chicago Bulls team with 8 games to go? Because we've got some winnable games here, but we also got really tough competition facing ahead of us as well. So it's not going to be an easy ride for the Chicago Bulls. But considering where we are at this point, what we have in our advantage or what we have at our disadvantage, this Chicago Bulls team needs to fight like hell in order to A, maintain our seed in the Eastern Conference, and B, just to try and gain some momentum heading into the NBA playoffs, because a lot of people do say you want to be playing your best basketball heading into the NBA playoffs, not your worst. I don't think it's a deal breaker for the Chicago Bulls if we come in with a little bit of a worse time, but it's something that we want to be happy and positive going into the NBA playoffs. We don't want our fans to feel upset, nervous, or I guess in disbelief that they can actually achieve something. The Chicago Bulls fans wants to feel positive walking into an NBA playoff series. So for the remaining 8 games of the season, there are quite a few things that we need to get done as a team. Win or lose these games. I can't ask the Chicago Bulls to win all 8 games because I know that's very unrealistic. And at the end of the day, if we were to do that, we would climb the Eastern Conference standings, but it's just not realistic to ask from them. We got really tough games coming up, as much as we have some winnable games coming up as well. So what I want to see from the Chicago Bulls first is consistency in their improvement. Again, the last game against Cleveland, we saw a game of 2 halves. We saw an elite defensive first half, and we saw a relatively poor offensive and defensive second half, which resulted in us scoring 98 points, but also in them scoring 94 points. So in the whole grand scheme of things, we did a pretty good job defensively. Now, what we need to see in the future is to have that mentality to improve from the Cleveland Cavaliers game into the New York Knicks game. The Chicago Bulls should have that mindset with, okay, we've seen a good thing in this game against Cleveland. We've seen that teams can end up struggling against our defense, and we know what our defense brings to us. But it's time to see if we can do that again against the New York Knicks, and then again against the Washington Wizards, and always trying to one-up yourself as a team. I think that's the mindset that we have to go into heading into the next couple of games, because defense is everything for our team. In my opinion, we have enough caliber of players to score, and I feel like we do have a lot that we need to work on in terms of ball movement and whatnot. But on the whole grand scheme of things, we are very talented offensively, in my opinion. Again, you got Zach LaVine, that, again, maybe the second option on this team. For some nights, he's the first. But undoubtedly, he's an unbelievable and extremely talented offensive player. When he's in the mood, he can definitely drop 30 to 40 points on any given night. DeMar DeRozan has really shined through as a player this season compared to his years on the San Antonio Spurs. He's brought his game to an MVP caliber type of game up until this stretch of March, which probably has put him down a peg or two in the pecking order for MVP. You got Vucevic, that even with his statistics now, with all of the, I guess, career lows that you've probably seen from Vucevic this season, is probably better than 80% of the centers offensively as well. Then you got Kobe White off the bench, that we know is inconsistent, but he can drop a fair few amount of points. Caruso is always going to be a guy that gives you 110%. Ayo Dosunmu is developed as a rookie. We've got a lot of talented guys, in my opinion. So it's all about one-upping yourselves. It's all about doing better than the last game that you showed. So you're not going to win every single one of these games, but defensively, I think we have a good enough team to try and replicate this performance against the New York Knicks, and we'll see where we go from there. But having that mentality of one-upping yourself, having that mentality to do better than your last game is all I can really ask for from the Chicago Bulls. Our last game against Cleveland wasn't the best, but we walked away with the win. Let's see if we can improve from that performance and see where we go from there. That's the first thing I want to say, and that does come down to the defensive end. Obviously, the second thing is Ball movement, we saw it in the first half against Cleveland. We had 16 assists in that half, and we ended the second half of Cleveland with 23 assists. So, reality is, it's a very poor display from the first half to the second half. The first half, we were moving the ball. Everybody was getting involved. Defense led to offense. It was a beautiful sight to see. We are at our best when we run out in transition and we get steals and deflections that lead into easy points, which improves our assist numbers and it improves the way that we play. It's time to see us go back to that, ladies and gentlemen. Ball movement is the key to everything, in my opinion, on this team. As much as isolation does help at certain times, there are certain times you need to break out isolation if for whatever reason the half-court set that we run or the transition play that we go to just simply doesn't work. You crack into the isolation, then you have talented guys that can do that for you. But at the end of the day, our main source of our offense does come in ball movement. It comes when we have high assist numbers. We win when we have high assist numbers. We lose when our assist numbers are very low. So we saw that, and that's a big reason why Cleveland came back on us. So let's see if we can improve from 23 assists in the last game against Cleveland into 20, maybe 24, 25 assists with the Knicks, and hopefully we can end up getting back to 30, which I think is the magic number for the Chicago Bulls in terms of assists. Let's see if we can improve that as a next thing for the Chicago Bulls. Third thing I want to see improved, worked on for this team is, I said countless times this before, but the attitude. I think that comes down to defense and ball movement. I feel like our attitude as a team does vary between the teams that we verse. I feel like the teams against like Miami, the Bucks, probably Celtics that we have coming up, those are the harder games that we have. I feel like we already feel we don't deserve to be in that conversation, or maybe it's that we believe we can't beat these teams at this point in time. I've always said it takes one to really truly develop that belief inside of you that you can beat the elite team. So let's just say we verse the Miami Heat at home. We walk away with the win. Miami have been struggling recently, but they're still the second seed in the Eastern Conference. They're a team that we haven't beaten yet. We go out and maybe we potentially beat the Miami Heat. That belief kicks inside of you. Then all of a sudden, the attitude maybe shifts a little bit. Wow, we beat Miami. We got the Bucks next. That's a really good competition for us. Let's see if we go out to beat the Bucks. And all of a sudden, then maybe that belief can continue to grow for your team. And these are the things that we're going to need to see going forward as well. So consistency, I think, is a big thing. Defensively, I think we need to improve. And we need to see a step up from what we saw defensively in this game compared to the next game against the Knicks. Hopefully, we can see improvement there. I also want to see, again, ball movement, big thing as well. Attitude, big thing as well. And now let's turn to the coaching staff, ladies and gentlemen. I want to see more experiments like we saw against Cleveland. How many times against the Cleveland Cavaliers game, I didn't mention this in the game reaction, it completely slipped my mind, but how many times did you see the Chicago Bulls blitz a pick and roll in the fourth quarter to kind of get some stops, that Cleveland didn't see coming? How many times did you see a hedge out on a pick and roll just to get them off their game? Because every single team, most teams play drop coverage, but certain teams have certain styles of drop coverage that allows them to succeed when they do end up having drop coverage. If you have an elite rim protector like the Utah Jazz with Rudy Gobert, you're affordable to play at drop coverage because you've got an elite rim protecting center there that will help you out. Unfortunately, the Bulls don't necessarily have that. So these types of experiments where we hedge out or we blitz or we trap or sometimes we just eat up the space and certain things like that, they help. They definitely help, and they throw teams off their game because they're probably not used to seeing it, and they're especially not used to seeing it with the Chicago Bulls. These certain types of experiments that I've been crying out for all season is something that we saw against Cleveland. Let's continue to see it against the New York Knicks. Let's see if the Knicks has certain answers to how we approach a pick and roll. Certain players you're allowed to go under the screen on a team that's not a very good three-point shooting team. Let's see if we could develop that chemistry and that adjustment depending on the teams that we face. I also like the idea of changing the lineup every now and then. The game against Cleveland, we saw Alex Caruso and Ayo Dosunmu start because we saw the success in both of those guys guarding Darius Garland, and in this game specifically, guarding Caris LeVert. there was great success with those two in the starting lineup. They had great offensive games, but they also had really strong defensive games as well, with Alex Crusoe being my personal player of the game against Cleveland. That adjustment was really smart by Billy Donovan, and we don't see that very often out of him. Let's be honest, he doesn't really make too many adjustments for a team, but we needed to win this game, and when we needed to win it the most, he took a risky adjustment, and it worked out for the Chicago Bulls. So maybe in the next couple of games, if we verse two talls like Milwaukee that we have coming up, I would like to see us use Tristan Thompson in the starting lineup again, playing alongside Vooch. Maybe we could potentially see Kobe White, if we need a little bit more scoring or just another three-point shooter, we could potentially use Kobe White in the starting lineup from time to time. Or, if all things considered, maybe we can give a little bit more minutes to Troy Brown Jr. or Derrick Jones Jr. depending on the adjustments and the teams that we're versing. I feel like Derrick Jones Jr. missed an opportunity to get another game against the Milwaukee Bucks, because I thought he was terrific in that game in the second last meeting that we versed him in, and then the last meeting he didn't get any game time. Things of this nature are common knowledge for the Chicago Bulls. I feel like adjustments and making changes, experimenting with the team has been something that we're crying out for, so we don't become too predictable in the playoffs, because we're not good enough as a team to be predictable in the playoffs. But if you become a little bit more unpredictable, you get a little bit more of these experiments going, you make a little bit more adjustments in your defensive coverages, then all of a sudden certain teams will be thrown off by that, and we can capitalize in our ability to run out on the break, run out in transition, and just get a little bit more stops as a team. You can't fix everything overnight. That's why I said I don't expect us to win all 8 games. I know between Miami, Bucks, and Celtics, we will probably lose one of those games. I have a good feeling between the Knicks, the Wizards, and Clippers, we will probably lose one of those games, maybe 2 of those games. We don't know. But all I want to see now, outside of everything I mentioned, is just a better performance from your last. I want to see a better performance from the Chicago Bulls, from that Cleveland game to this New York Knicks game. And we'll see where we could go from there. We'll take it one game at a time. We have 8 games. It's the end of the season. It's a crucial part of our season for the Chicago Bulls. We've done great things. As much as we've had a negative month of March, we've done 2 great things in the month of March. We beat the Toronto Raptors to get a game-tying series over them, and we beat Cleveland to get a game-tying series over them. So if we finish with the same record as those 2 teams, we will finish above them because we have those tiebreakers in our favor. So all of the negatives in the month of March, we should potentially be finishing second the way that it was supposed to be in February. We would have finished first or second, but March hit us and we've had a negative spiral ever since. But we have had some small positives in an overall big negative. So heading into April, I'd just like to see improvements. I want to see this team build upon performances. I want this team to at least feel like in the playoffs, they've gotten better than what we've seen in the month of March, because that will give them all the momentum in the world, and that could potentially give these Bulls fans belief that this team can go out and at least get out of the first round. Maybe even give one hell of a fight in the second round. Maybe do something special. Who really knows? I guess it depends on the Bulls fan that you are. But the most important thing is to give these fans belief, is to see gradual improvements from here on in. And that's what I really want to see. I don't want to call this season a write-off yet. I feel like we have a long way to go, and I feel like being in the playoffs is something we should celebrate. But at the end of the day, we do need to see gradual improvements, and we do need to give these fans some element of hope and belief that this playoff series will not be a one and done, will not be a sweep, will not be anything like that. That we're going to go out and we're going to be competitive, because this team can be competitive. So I'm going to end this video here. I always like to go on just a little bit of a rant in these types of videos, because we want to keep the positivity up. We want this team to get motivated, to get excited, to feel the end of the season, feel the pressure, invite the pressure, and overcome the pressure, because that is where you're going to end up seeing the best version of this team. If we can overcome all these circumstances and we enter the playoffs, we could be a very dangerous team if people don't take us seriously. So let's just wait and see overall. Fingers crossed the Chicago Bulls will have a better improvement from the Bulls game against the Cavs to the Knicks game. And the Wizards games are back-to-back as well, so that's going to be a hard stretch, the Knicks and the Wizards back-to-back. And also, I think you got Miami and Milwaukee. You got Miami and Milwaukee back-to-back as well. I don't really know. We have 2 back-to-backs left, so it's not going to be an easy stretch for the Chicago Bulls. I still think we have the second hardest schedule in the NBA, even until now. The hardest has still yet to come for the Chicago Bulls. So let's just see what we can do. We got a long way to go, but it's still somewhat of a road that I believe we can overcome. We'll wait and see. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Let me know in the comments below everything that you think. Have a wonderful and safe day. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.